I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。
As usual, our purpose is to demonstrate understanding by expressing the original meaning in our own words. So, what is the difference between the paraphrase and the translation? Well, with the translation, the way that I insist upon translating is to stick to the original as closely as possible, sacrificing none of the original meaning, but avoid adding in the words of my own invention. Now, once we have gone through a chapter completely and we understand what it's trying to say, we now are in a position of increased freedom. With the additional understanding, we have the freedom to rephrase, to paraphrase, to say it, to express the meaning of the original in our words. So the paraphrase is not exactly like the translation. It doesn't need to stick to the original words. It can be different minor expressions as long as we stick to the original meaning. So that's the purpose behind the paraphrase. So let's go ahead and take another look at 76 to see what it is exactly we have to paraphrase. Okay. So, as you recall from last time, 76 is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, the introductory part, talks about living things and also human beings. So, living things include human beings, animals, and plants. For all of the above, the commonality is that while we're living things, still in the land of the living, we all exhibit a certain kind of softness, the softness of life, the flexibility of life, that we're able to bend, we're able to be flexible, we're pliant, we're able to change with the changing conditions, escape from harm, seek greater safety, greater security, etc. So, with that commonality, that characterizes life. The complement is death. That is when we're lacking the flexibility, we're lacking the pliancy and softness, etc. So part 1, the introductory part, begins talking about characteristics of the living and the dead. Part 2, the middle part, talks about the followers of death and the follower of life. So this is a way to express formally the difference between those that exhibit the qualities of living and those that exhibit the qualities of being dead. Now, this is more than just biological life and death. This could be mental and spiritual. You could be physically alive, but mentally stagnant. That being stagnant, being dogmatic, being inflexible is equivalent to a mental kind of death. And it could be a spiritual kind of death as well. Thus, follower of death, follower of life. And then, lastly, the last part, we have a concluding section, and that section uses the military and also a tree to be additional metaphors for this concept, and this is where we can recognize that this is indeed talking about flexibility and applying that flexibility to life, to our lives. And whenever possible, the very last line tells us that we need to use a soft and flexible approach in life. That way, we get to be full participants in the land of the living. So, with that quick review, I think we're ready now to paraphrase part 1. So remember, part 1 is about the living things, the softness, hardness, respectively. So here's the paraphrase that I would offer. The Tao emphasis on the soft is based on observations of nature. sages note that while people are alive, their bodies are supple and flexible. When they are dead, their bodies become stiff and unyielding. It's the same with all living things. Whether animals or plants, they possess softness while alive and become brittle in death. So the only extra thing that I would emphasize is that Lao Tzu makes it clear that the people who have died, animals, plants that are dead, not only are they tough, unyielding, unable to move, not flexible, etc., they also become brittle. They become brittle in time, which means they're fragile, they're easy to break. So the central idea there is never become entrapped in the illusion that because you are unwilling to change your mind, that you are strong. So being associated with the characteristics of death is not only inflexible, it's also brittle and fragile. So I would emphasize that particular point from Lao Tzu. So then let's go to part 2, the central part. And let's paraphrase that. When we apply this to our world, we can see that a dogmatic mindset, incapable of change, is aligned with death. On the other hand, an adaptive mindset that responds to changing conditions is aligned with life. There is no question which one would be more preferable. So the only significant thing that I'm doing here is that I'm using alignment with death and alignment with life in place of being the disciple or the follower of death, the disciple or follower of life. As I mentioned last week, sometimes when we talk about the followers of death, followers of life, people have a tendency to associate that with a cult-like mentality, or perhaps worshiping a particular deity of death, a particular deity of life. In reality, the original Tao Te Ching is talking about none of those. It's talking about how our thinking, our perspectives, our approach to life can be aligned with that which is lively, rigorous, and vigorous, or that which is, frankly, dead. That which is, unchanging, frankly, very boring, without possibilities, and ultimately self-defeating. So let's tackle the last part. As I mentioned, the last part is using the additional metaphors of the military force, the army, as well as a tree, to further make the point that we want to be flexible. We don't want to have the stubbornness that oftentimes people have that will be opposed to the Tao. In this perspective, a powerful military force may be at a disadvantage if it cannot change its approach quickly. A tree that grows strong may be cut down to be used as timber. In both scenarios, as it is in life, the softer way is superior, and being flexible is of the paramount importance. So there you have it. That's the paraphrase. There are only 2 points that I want to remind everyone as a summary for this chapter. Number 1 is about change. Look at the past, extrapolate to the future. So when we talk about change, it's not just a slogan, everybody. I want to challenge you. Can you think of upcoming changes that will affect you personally? And what are some things that you can look into to learn about that will give you some ideas? Number two, the more accomplished you are, like the old doctor, like the old Chinese medicine doctor, in our story, the more accomplished you are, the more humble you have to become. Success can cause you to lose touch with reality, so the challenge is to be receptive, courteous to everyone, and patient, even when you know you're right, even when you know they're wrong. The challenge is to be patient at a time like that, not cut them off. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，持架三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位点传世一鞠躬，接班一鞠躬。We are done, everybody. Thank you so much.